All right, welcome back. It is Bears Nation Podcast. It is Monday, October 31st, and for the second week in a row, for the second time in 5 days, 6 days, whatever, math is stupid anyway, we have a trade from the Bears to talk about that just overwhelmingly takes over the actual game talk, and that is going to just dominate this episode, of course, because the Bears make a big move this afternoon that greatly impacts the team. We'll get to that. But myself, Jake Hassan, joined as always by Kevin Lapka. And because of the nature of this episode, because of the impact of this episode, we brought in resident football expert Kellen. Welcome back to the program. The third guy, the third unseen shadow of the show, even though he's seen probably more than I am on the show. Everybody's in the house this time because it's just a huge move by the Bears, a huge move that impacts the rest of the season, that impacts next season. So let's get right into that. Roquan Smith traded today for a second rounder, a fifth rounder, and a player who really just doesn't even matter. So biggest part of this for me, you get rid of your best player, you get rid of your team captain, your team leader. Kevin said last week, the guy that's breaking the huddle every week before the game, the guy that's giving the speech before every game. You ship that guy out. We saw what happened when you got rid of Robert Quinn, when you sent him to Philadelphia. We saw the immediate impact that had on this team. We saw Roquan Smith crying at his postgame, not his postgame, but his press conference. You get it, whatever.
Midweek press conference.
Yes, thank you, Jesus. Anyway, but you saw that impacted, and now you get rid of and you send off a guy who's even more important than Robert Quinn. You take away basically the heartbeat, arguably, of this team. And you take away, of course, its best player. Of course, you get a second rounder back. That's huge. You get a fifth rounder back. That's huge. You have 9 draft picks now in the 2023 NFL draft. But guys, first and foremost, one of your biggest leaders is gone, if not your biggest leader. And it's gonna be a rough rest of the season without your best player, your best defensive player by far.
That's for sure. I was hopeful that playoffs could still be in play for the Chicago Bears of 2022. That conversation is all but over at this point when you lose Roquan Smith. So, we're on to bigger and better things anyway. The whole purpose of this season was to see what you have for 2023 anyway. And really, to make yourself some room and give yourself a little bit of leeway to be competitive. And that's exactly what they did. I'll just put it out there. There's a lot I've seen. I believe the general reaction to the trade is positive among the Bears community. From what I've seen, it hasn't been an outrage, and I am with them. I think this is a trade that you had to, maybe you didn't have to make it, but a good trade nonetheless for the Chicago Bears, right? The return that you get for Roquan Smith is interesting to me, right? Because you get a 2 and a 5 from the Baltimore Ravens. And, this isn't a Ravens podcast, but the question for them is, are they really going to pay Roquan the money he's looking for? Because it appears that he is standing pat with his offer, that he's self-representing himself, and he's going to stay at this $20 million largest linebacker deal in NFL history, and he's not going to move from that. That is evident, right?
And they have to pay Lamar Jackson this offseason too.
So that's my point.
You mean to tell me they're going to pay Lamar Jackson and Roquan Smith a combined $80 million a season or whatever it ends up being?
No, they shouldn't do that. And that's why if you're the Ravens, you're essentially, if they decide not to pay Roquan Smith, you're paying a second and fifth round pick for what is a rental for the last 9 games of the season. And this isn't a 7-0 team. This isn't a 6-0 team. This is a 5-3 team in a competitive AFC conference where you could lose a couple games here or there and miss the playoffs. You could have spent a second and fifth round pick on a player like Roquan Smith and then miss the playoffs. And then, maybe you don't have to pay him in the offseason, but it's just a weird trade. But nonetheless, the return is great for the Chicago Bears. Have 2 second-round picks. We saw what the Bears were able to do with those 2 second-round picks last year. We've seen Kyler Gordon come into his own. We know Jaquan Brisker has the potential to be an all-pro player. I love the fact that you're going to have 3 picks there in the first 2 rounds and the ability, if there's somebody you really, really like in the first round, to trade up as well. That's something that is now become available to you. I don't know if they necessarily will do that. It appears Ryan Poles really obviously likes to accumulate picks and not give them away. So I'm not sure a trade up is in the books, but it's something that's possible now. And what Ryan Poles is doing, and the critical difference between him and Ryan Pace is this: he is setting up this team to be successful for not just 2023 and not just 2024, but for the next 5 to 10 years, right? And the Ryan Pace era was defined by we're going to overspend to contend for a couple of years and mortgage the future. And if it doesn't work out, we're screwed for the final few years. And that's exactly what it turned out to be. What I believe the philosophy for Ryan Poles is obviously we're going to build for the draft. We're going to find value. We're going to save money. We're not going to overpay for anyone. We're going to build this from the ground up, and we're going to build something that's sustainable for 10 plus years. And this is what go-to organizations do. And the most important thing is they have the quarterback situation figured out. And I know we'll talk more about Justin Fields, but that's my overall reaction to the trade. I think it's a positive thing, and I really do understand, and it's clear to me, the vision and the mindset of what Ryan Poles is trying to do with this organization. Kellen, your thoughts?
I you guys kind of hit it on the head. The both of you did. I'll say that that for the Bears fans who are upset, and I think there are some out there on the van that we just traded away our best player and our two best players, if you want to call them that, in the last 5-6 days, whatever it's been. But I think in the offseason, a lot of us said, why did we hire Eberflus? Why aren't we going this route that we see is revolving around Justin, like what the Jaguars did, how they spent a lot of money. They got the offensive head coach, Doug Peterson.
Oh, well, look how that's going for them.
Exactly. So like you see that, and now you're like, now Ryan Poles is rebuilding. Someone texted me today. My friend said, I don't like this. It feels like the Bears are tanking. This isn't a tank. This is a rebuild. You know what I mean? It's not a tank. It's a rebuild. And this is a big part of it. Is when you ship off pieces like that. Robert Quinn, who was a very good football player even at his age, Roquan Smith, who was a very good young linebacker, one of the best in the business. But are those guys adding wins when it matters? And it doesn't matter right now. And when it comes around to next year, Roquan will be a great player. I mean, we probably could afford to pay him, but that's just not the business we're in right now. We can't be this hypocritical fan base that wants this new age organization that is not 1985 anymore. We're not worried about off-ball linebackers and the Singletaries and the Butkuses of the world. This is not what this is anymore. So you have to understand and appreciate that finally we are moving in a direction toward centering around a franchise quarterback that we'll talk about.
Yeah, I think the big thing here is this gives me, this move, a lot of confidence in Ryan Poles as the GM. This tells me that Ryan Poles understands his situation. He understands what he's working with. We talked about all offseason how this roster, and even into the season, this roster, you can't compete with other Super Bowl aspiring teams. Now, what I think ended up happening is, and especially maybe it even was after that first game against San Francisco, Ryan Poles saw that win and said, okay, maybe I have a little bit more talent than I thought. Maybe Jaquan Brisker is an impact guy right away. Eddie Jackson's bouncing back. Roquan Smith is who we thought he is. Maybe I have a little bit more talent than I thought. Not enough to get to the playoffs, or maybe to the playoffs and be in the hunt, quote unquote, but you're not getting to the Super Bowl. Kevin's favorite word, in the hunt. But you can't get to the Super Bowl. You're not winning the Super Bowl. And now I got to start shipping these guys out because, no, we're not tanking, but the best move for this organization over the next 2 to 3 years, and especially for this season, is to lose games, because that is how you get back to that championship aspiration. That's how you get back to the playoffs and not just perennially in the hunt. That's how you get to where you want to be. So this gives me a lot of faith in Ryan Poles going forward, because not only has he had a solid draft after his first draft, Brisker looks great. Gordon's getting better every week. Braxton Jones continues to have moments. Dominique Robinson didn't play as much as we wanted last week, but I still have faith that he can be an impact player. And then, of course, the guys that he brought in and how he's evaluating these guys, I think Ryan Poles knows exactly what his situation is. And maybe this makes sense with the, because I saw a couple of people say, oh, well, Roquan, we went through all that in the offseason just for us to get rid of him anyway. This says to me that there was an agreement worked out. Hey, you come and play and just be there. Just be on the field, morale, be there for the guys. And the first chance we get, I'll trade you. And I'll trade you to a playoff contender and I'll get you out of here. That's what that says to me. Yeah. Now that's probably galaxy brain. That's probably conspiracy. That's probably not what happened. But who knows? The way that things happened with Roquan Smith, because it was so sudden, remember, that he was just back at practice one day. He was just out there. It was no. Oh, he's here. Oh, he's out on the field now. Okay. So maybe that's me just trying to read between the lines too much. But I think Ryan Poles made some kind of, handshake agreement with Roquan Smith and said, I'm going to get you out of here whenever I can, when I get the right deal. A second and a fifth is great. This is now Ryan Poles is 2 for 2 and getting exactly the value that you should have gotten. Robert Quinn maybe could have gotten you a third, but why wait around and why wait for him to maybe get hurt against Dallas? Same with
Right.
Roquan Smith. Maybe would a desperate team have given you a first at some point? Maybe, but you'll take a second and a fifth right now because that's still just as valuable. Look what you did with your second round pick last spring, winter, whatever you want to call it. You got Brisker and Gordon, like two guys that you think are going to be here for a very long time. So I think Ryan Poles is doing a great job. This makes me have a lot of confidence in him going forward. And now we hear today now too, because then obviously the next question is, oh, well, who's going to be gone next? And logically, the next logical answer is, well, Eddie Jackson. Having a bounce back year. He looks great. Well, Kevin, easy, relax. They announced today Eddie Jackson's a permanent captain the rest of the year. They're keeping him. Now, maybe part of that is that nobody wants to take on that massive salary that he has after one bounce back year. That's a possibility. But also, he's still fairly young, too, at a premium position. You know, linebackers in the NFL come and go, even as good as they are as Roquan Smith. Impact DBs, especially safeties, especially ball hawking safeties like Eddie Jackson, you don't get those guys that often. Look how long it took to pair one adequate safety with Eddie Jackson forever. Look how much you rotated through guys until you got to Jaquan Brisker. And you had to draft him. You didn't even sign him off the street. You had to draft him, and that had to work out exactly in your favor then too. So I think Eddie Jackson, he's staying. That's what that says to me. But just back to my original point, Ryan Poles knows what his situation is, and this screams that he knows that, and he knows what they have to do. It's not tanking. To Kellen's point, it's not a rebuild.
Right.
It's not a tank. It's a rebuild, and this is what's best. This isn't going to happen, tomorrow. This is going to happen at best next season. And to be at the best situation possible next season, got to lose some games because you're already behind the 8 ball. I think Tankathon right now has you in the mid-teens. Granted, things can still fall apart. You expect Vegas and Jacksonville to maybe be a little bit better. Cleveland's probably going to be a little bit better. Tampa. But right now, you're projected for the 12th overall pick. Teams ahead of you, Arizona, Denver, New Orleans, Tampa Bay. Hopefully you can get into the top 10 when those teams start playing better, and then who knows from there.
I'm almost cautious to even use the word rebuild, though, because the difference between the Bears situation is huge between the Bears and 99% of other rebuilds and the traditional scripted rebuild, right? When you think about teams that enter a rebuild, you probably got a 37-year-old quarterback who's not good anymore, or you've been going through a carousel of guys and you're tanking, you're looking for a quarterback in the first round. And
the Colts are staring one down right now.
That's exactly the team that I was thinking of. The Colts are a perfect example. And then you look, the Texans who are going to draft a guy, some of these other teams. The Bears have the most important piece locked down. Like the rebuild is accelerated. Like when you had to enter the offseason saying, hey, we don't even have to worry about that. We can use our first round pick and a skill player to elevate the quarterback and elevate his play, but also understanding that from what we've seen in these last 2 games, the quarterback on your team is elevating the team way more than any other player on the field. Like Roquan Smith isn't giving you wins. Justin Fields is going to be the one week in and week out winning you your football game. It's not Roquan Smith. It's not Robert Quinn. And for that point, I think that was recognized by Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus, especially the past couple games, saying, hey, our defense is getting carved apart, but we're still in this game because of Justin Fields. You can assuredly say on Sunday and the week for 2 weeks in a row, the best player on your team was Justin Fields. The best player on your team was the quarterback. And when was the last time you could say that about a Chicago Bears quarterback? Well, legitimately, when was the last time you could say in back-to-back football games the quarterback was the best player on your team? Ever? Like, legitimately.
God.
I've been alive for 22 years, and I don't. Maybe a stretch or two here with Cutler.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe there was a Cutler point, but
there had to have been a stretch in 2018. There had to have been
a Mitch stretch. There
might have.
There was never a Mitch stretch because it was always Khalil Mack or Eddie Jackson or
That's
Kyle
a good
Fuller,
point. That's a good point. It's just look. The bottom line is, I feel again like. I'm fine. Like if the defense takes a hit next year, I don't care because you are going to win.
Buddy, the defense is going to take a hit this year. You almost got 50 burgered.
Yeah. Well, we know
Cowboys, and now you just got rid of your best defensive player. It's going to be a long couple weeks.
But I'm just saying, like, there's so many Bears fans now who see the trades and they see, all right, you just lost 2 of your best defensive players. Oh, they're burning down Hallis Hall. That's not the case. Like the Bears are inarguably, I would go as far to say the Bears might have the best position in any team in the NFL right now of all teams with a losing record. The Bears might be in the best situation of any team in the league currently with a losing record. I mean, I would have to go. I'm sure there's one other team that has a losing record that might be in a fine situation, just having a bad year.
Here's why we're in the best position, Kevin, is because we just lost by 20 and we almost gave up 50 points, and all of us are excited. We're all Bears fans right now are looking positive. We feel positive. I don't think any other team in the league yesterday could have lost how we did and felt good. You know what I mean? So,
correct.
I think we're fine, man. I think we're making the right moves. This is good. I didn't mean to cut you off. I didn't know if you had more to say, but
no, go on. I mean, like, because you're right. Because I was gonna say that to you guys. I was like, I was not upset yesterday. Like that game ended. They dropped 49 on us, and I was like, that's fine. Like I don't care. You know what I mean? And like you guys know me. You guys know me, right? You know how I react to these games, and most times in that situation, you lose by 20 and you lose in the way you did, especially a game that at points looked winnable, was winnable. You're down 28-3 at a certain point. You should be upset at that. And I'm just like, nah, like I'm good. Like I'm going to just go watch the 3:00 games, pay attention to my fantasy team. We're good. We're straight. We're
this
chilling.
Was the worst text I got from Kevin Lapka on Sunday. Roquan needs to make that play. Well, he's not on the team anymore. So there you go.
But you know what play I'm talking about? It was, I want to say it was 4th down, maybe. And Roquan shot the gap on Pollard. No, I think it was the touchdown play. That Pollard scored down the sidelines.
Kevin, regardless, I'm going to say now what I said to you in the reply text what I texted you back, and what I said last week. That was the ideal game. That is what every Bears game ideally looks like for the rest of the year. Justin Fields looks awesome. Khalil Herbert looks great. The offensive line looks pretty good against a pretty good defensive front, and you still lose the game. That's what you want. That is exactly what the game plan, what the play script, what the ideal scenario is for the rest of the year. Justin Fields continues to take strides. Justin Fields continues to look awesome, making plays with his arm and his leg, making throws like he did to N'Keal Harry, and making these great runs, not just scrambles, but also designed. And then the offensive line keeps holding up. Everyone stays healthy, and you lose the game. That's what you want. It sucks rooting for losses. I get it. It's the worst. Yeah, but that's where we're at. Like that's, God, I said it again. But that's the situation.
That's where we're at. Oh, no.
That is the situation. Like that's exactly what you want to happen. Like, I get it. Nobody likes rooting for losses. So don't root for losses. Just root for Justin Fields to be awesome and root for the defense to suck. Like, that's just what you have to do. If you want Justin Fields and this team to get better, you need losses. And you can do that with him still looking great. There are people like, well, if Justin Fields is getting so much better, then you shouldn't be losing games. That is not true at all. Look what just happened.
Here is also the reason why I wouldn't say I disagree, Jake, because obviously we're going to root for wins, but I think we all want a first-round tackle or a wide receiver. Bears fans, I think, will be very pissed off if it's not either one of those. Every wide receiver who is supposed to go anything, right? Any O-line receiver, right? And every first-round receiver right now who was thought to be a high pick, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Kayshon Boutte, Jordan Addison, and Quentin Johnston, they are all falling right now. And the tackle class is very deep. I can't remember the left tackle from Penn State, but, barring the best game of a defensive player from the whole season by JT Tuimoloau, that guy's a really good player. There's Paris Johnson. There's Peter Skoronski, who's a Chicago kid. And there will be options there. The Bears will not pick in the 20s because they're not going to go that far. But even where they're at now, 12, and I think they will move up the board. I think they'll be in the top 10. But even if they stay in that mid-teens, I still think there's plenty of room to get better. Mm-hmm. You never know what'll happen, in the draft. And I trust Poles to get better. I trust Poles to make the right decisions for the team. But, like I said, I'm not going to root for losses. But I got out my game yesterday, and it was about 5:30 my time, and the game probably ended like 4:15, 4:30, maybe a little bit before that, right? So I get out, I check my phone, and I see the Bears lose. And I'm like, all right, how'd Justin do? Oh, 17 for 23, blah, blah, blah yards, 2 touchdowns, and he had a good day on the ground, no turnovers. I'm like, awesome. Well, let me make sure that this isn't just like, Justin Fields. Like, let me make sure that this was an actual good, well-executed game from him. So I searched his name on Twitter, and most of Twitter is complimenting him. And it's like, let's go, right? And then I don't remember if I texted Kevin or not, but I was like, how did he do? And
you called me.
I asked someone, yeah. And I was like, how did he do? And you see the steps, you see the stride. So I think it's all falling into place right now. We're not going to see it this year. Trent Dilfer was on the score, like he usually is on Mondays, as Kevin knows. And he said, like, the toughest part about this year for the Bears is going to be Justin and being frustrated that they are not playing to be a champion, right? Like every week, Justin is, he eventually he's going to get frustrated. Why are we handing the ball off down 20? Why, let him put the cape on every once in a while. And again, we'll talk about that later. But, the trades, that all works its way into forming your team to not be okay with losses, but to build a team around to understand the rebuilding. Jalen Johnson said today, he said, I know that Poles is making decisions that are trying to benefit this franchise's future. So I think the guys get it. I hope the fans get it. I think we're making the right moves. The second and the fifth is just fine with me, and the fourth for Robert Quinn. I think those are three really good picks for those two players.
Yeah, I mean, what you're looking at right now is a handful of picks in the top 5 rounds, which is great. And to Kellen's point, I want to circle back to something that he said about how some of these receivers are falling. 4 weeks ago, we said there's going to be 3 receivers taken in the top 10. Right now, Tankathon has the Bears taking the second wide receiver of the entire draft at number 12. Has them taking Quentin Johnson at 12 and Jackson Smith and Jigba going 5 to the Jaguars. Other than that, it's all defensive players and tackles. So to his point, some of these guys are going to slide. And obviously, of course, that can change from now. I mean, it's a long season still. There's still obviously the combine and all these things go to, and then there's always surprise fallers and risers, so on and so forth. We know it. But, you're still going to rise and you're still going to be in a better spot. Like, does anyone really think that, Tampa Bay is going to end up picking 8th overall? Does anyone really think that's going to happen? Does anyone really think that Denver is going to finish and end up giving the Seahawks the 10th overall pick? Like, you're going to have wiggle room here. Like, there's going to be, you're not locked in at 12. It's a lot of season. There's there's been 8 games. You have 9 games left. There's a lot to go still. And there's a lot of these mock drafts. Of course, it's always the dangerous game when you look at them now, but it's not doom and gloom. And this is a forward-thinking move, to Kellen's point. Like, this is a forward-thinking point. And, of course, Jalen Johnson is going to say, well, I know he's making, moves that benefit the team. Because Jalen Johnson's about to get paid a lot of money. Jalen Johnson's like, oh, great, Roquan's gone? More money for me.
Correct.
Awesome. That's just a guy who's like, oh, great, I'm going to get paid so much money.
Yeah, he's down for it. And you're talking about, rooting for wins and stuff. And I've always long been a proponent when a team is in situations like this to say that wins still matter. And they do. Trust me, when you have a young team and establishing that culture of we're going to be a winning franchise is good. But at some point, I think it's recognized by not just us, but those in the locker room that, you're just not talented enough as a group right now. You're just not. But the thing is that the positive takeaway is these guys haven't been playing in a fashion that's a rollover and die format. They're playing competitive football. They're in every one of these games, regardless of the situation, on the road, at home, against a good coach, against a good quarterback. It doesn't matter. They're in the game. And that, given the situation, is just as positive as a takeaway for me than is a win at this point, because you're so far below talent compared to a team like Dallas Cowboys that you can come away from that game like assuredly saying, and we haven't been able to do this before, if we had CeeDee Lamb and we had Micah Parsons, we win that football game. Previously you couldn't say that because you didn't know where the issues lied. You didn't know if the issue was the quarterback. You didn't know if the issue was the head coach. You didn't know if the issue was the lack of talent. In the past 4 years, when the Bears were or after 2018, when they struggled to win games like that, you didn't know where to place the blame. Now it's, hey, we have the quarterback. He's playing well. We believe the coach is coaching these guys well. We understand that the clear and obvious solution is to just add a little bit of talent. And once we, kind of come back to the mean of average talent level in the NFL among these teams, we're going to be a winning team. You know that. And it's refreshing to know that. It's so refreshing to know that everything is in your hands to be able to go into the offseason and have the resources to make this team better and come away from that saying, you know what, if we do spend the money and we do, draft in at least a somewhat correct way, we're likely going to be a winning football team in 2023 and set ourselves up to be probably the winners of the NFC North for the next 4 years. I mean, you look at this division and you look at what's occurring this year in this division. Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers are done. The Detroit Lions are still a work in progress. And the Kirk Cousins are, to me, a flash in the pan. Or did I say the Kirk Cousins? Did I really say
Kirk Cousins?
Yeah.
The
That's what
Minnesota
they are.
Kirk Cousins.
The Minnesota
I
can't
Minnesota
believe I
fighting
said
Kirk
that.
Cousins is.
I can't believe I said that. My Lord. The Minnesota Vikings, a flash in the pan. The Minnesota Kirk Cousins. I think you have a real opportunity. I can't even take myself seriously with my point. You have a real opportunity to win the division for the next 4 years after this year. That's what I think we're looking at.
Absolutely, and I'm excited. I think that the Vikings are a solid option. You know what I mean? So, I just got a visitor for my running back into my bedroom. But hold on, give me like 5 minutes. But dang, I forgot what I was even talking about. But the division, yes, the division. Minnesota, I don't know if they're a flash in the pan, but they're going to be tough going forward. I mean, look, they've got really good players. They've got Christian Darrisaw at left tackle. Obviously, we don't have to talk about Justin Jefferson. They've got Daniil Hunter. They've got Patrick Peterson, who might not be what he is right now going forward, but I think the talent that they've got is suitable to compete with. I don't think we're looking at like a prime Rodgers, prime Favre Green Bay, right?
God,
like a monster that we just could
You're
never
not fearful
beat, you know
of them game in and game out.
Right. But it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, like next year, the Bears might have the best quarterback in the division, and I know barring Rodgers still being there, and even if he is there, I mean the regression we've seen from him, and he doesn't have the playmakers around him, and I don't know what the Packers are in projected cap space, but as of right now, it's not looking good as it is with the Bears. And someone asked in the comments like, well, it's kind of worrisome because the Bears have a lot of money in a free agent class that is not super strong. But Kevin, me and you talked about that, and I think Poles cannot be Trent Bulk. You can't overpay for guys just because they're available, and I think he understands that. If 2023 isn't the year, that doesn't mean that 2024 isn't. So you can't afford to waste that opportunity because your window is not just 1 year. Your window is not just next year. Your window is as long as you have this quarterback and as long as you can build around him.
And that's what I mean about Ryan Pace, is it felt like each offseason, it was like a reset window. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, we didn't do it last year. He's leaving the stream for a second. Reset the window. Let's overpay again. Oh, it didn't work out. Reset. Let's overpay again. Like there was no forward-thinking thought.
I don't even think it was that, Kevin. I think it was just always kick the can down the road. It was always, we're going to restructure this contract. We're going to convert this to a signing bonus. We're going to do this. You know, how many times do we see, Akeem Hicks now had this part of his contract converted to signing bonus, and now you have to pay him in 2028. Oh, Khalil Mack had his contract restructured to now that blah, blah, blah. How many times did that happen? Every winter it was 2 or 3 guys almost, and it was just you knew that if you didn't start seeing the success, eventually you were going to have to pay the price for that, and that's what ended up happening, obviously. And now with Ryan Poles, it's like, okay, we're not going to do that. I'm going to cut bait here, and of course, obviously, it's a different situation. I do want to say something about the division. Obviously, I'm the pessimist on this show. I think the division could be really tough. I said this last week. Once the Lions get C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young, whoever they end up picking, because they're going to be in the top 3. That offense is going to be pretty scary with Swift and Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah, but it was scary this year, and then look at where they're at.
Right, so it's scary this year, and then they add players on defensive free agency, and they get a better quarterback. I maintain that the Lions could be scary, if not next year, the year after that. The Vikings, O'Connell might just be an awesome coach, and we see
I think that's true,
and we've seen how much a top 2 coach can make out of nothing. Even if you're still just leaning on Kirk Cousins for the next 3 or 4 years, O'Connell himself just might be able to elevate them. Even if Green Bay falls off, let's say Rodgers is sick of it and he retires this year, and then you get Jordan Love. The other 2 teams might rise enough where it makes it tough. I agree. The Bears have the quarterback, and it could still theoretically be their division, quote unquote. But I just don't think it'll be the cakewalk that we're making out to be at this moment in time. But of course, you want to spin it forward and be positive looking forward. Obviously.
Well, I mean that's what I do. You know me, but it's not going to be a cakewalk. I'm just saying, like there's no more dominant force in the NFC North. It's up for grabs. It's up for grabs because the Vikings have proven to be inconsistent year in and year out. Yeah,
there's not a power vacuum anymore.
Right?
It's Rodgers and everybody else.
Exactly, and that's what I mean. It's like if we had to play the Vikings each year, week 17 to win the division, that's I could see it coming down to that, and that's
you're winning at least half of them.
You're winning at least
if not
half
more.
Of them. So I want Kellen to come back here. Kellen, get your ass back in here because I have a great question. And Jake, you're probably gonna think I'm crazy for even asking it.
Usually do, but yeah.
Because of what has occurred in the last 2 games, I think it's a very reasonable question to ask. And it's something that I talked about.
I already am scared of where this is going.
No, is Justin Fields going to be a Hall of Famer next year?
Is Justin Fields the MVP this year?
Yeah, is Justin Fields okay? Can we have a real conversation about Geno Smith MVP? That's something to be talking about. Anyway, what's the odds for that? Anyway, Kellen's not going to jump back in here because he's the worst. But I'll ask you the question: is it reasonable? And you have to really think about it. And I want you to pull up the teams in the NFC because you need to see the teams to kind of go through it in your head. Is it reasonable to say that in 2023, Justin Fields could be the best quarterback in the NFC? When you look at the teams and you look at the quarterbacks, and Kellen's back, so I'll ask it again.
At the perfect time.
So I have a great question here, and Jake's already heard it, so don't spoil it. But my question is this, Kellen. Is it possible, and I want you to pull up all the teams in the NFC right now, is it possible that by next year, 2023, and definitely by 2024, Justin Fields is the best quarterback in the NFC conference?
When
you look at all the teams, is it possible? Is it possible that he's the best quarterback in the NFC as soon as next year? I mean, look at the teams, right? I think he can be a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts.
So basically, what this question comes down to is: do you think Justin Fields will be better than Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, and Kyler Murray? And whoever
maybe Matthew Stafford.
Or
maybe the rookie.
And then
guys, Geno Smith. Don't forget about the big G.
If he sustains it next year, sure.
And then the other two I'll throw in there just because that's usually the nature of their picks. Whoever the Lions and Panthers draft in the top 3, because that's just the nature of those type of picks. But basically, you're asking is because you did include 2024 in this as well. So it's basically, can Justin Fields be better than those 5?
He can. I don't think it happens because I think the Eagles have done a really good job of surrounding Jalen Hurts, and I don't think that he takes a step back next year.
That's a very fair point.
I do think he can be better than Kyler. Absolutely.
I think he is better than Kyler at this given point in time.
You know what I was going to
I think he does more for you than Kyler Murray.
I can do it later in the show, but Justin doesn't make decisions that you look at him like the Indiana game in 2020. He doesn't make a lot of decisions where it's like, what the fuck are you doing? There aren't a lot of, the Zach Wilson picks, or there's times when Kyler Murray, there's times when a lot of people do it. But when you think of young quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts has done a really good job of limiting that. But every interception this year, I don't remember the Packers one, but he had the one against the 49ers, which he said, they just fooled me. I just straight up got fooled. Every pick has been tipped. Okay, the Commanders one was tipped. The Patriots one was tipped. He had two, and he had the two against the Texans, but both of those were just misses. I'm not worried about Justin Fields and missing throws because I think his accuracy will he's an accurate guy as it is, and it will just become better over time. But there's not a lot of throws. There's times when he takes sacks, and you're like, we got to get the ball out, or we got to see that quicker. But there's not a lot of turnovers and picks that are happening where it's very worrisome. I think that's a very good part of being a quarterback and still being able to put the ball downfield, because you could be Aaron Rodgers, the meme where it's Aaron Rodgers is guys, let's go. I went another game without throwing a pick, and it seems like we just fucking lost by 20. Who cares? So it's
exactly,
it's one of those. So I'm happy with that. I think he can be a top 3 guy. I think that it'll be cool if we can surround him to be in that. The Eagles and Cowboys have pretty good supporting casts around the QBs right now.
Yeah,
so
but
Dak
was fine last week. But the reason I asked this question, and Jake, I'll throw it to you because I know the reason why I prefaced this whole conversation was because of what has happened in the last 2 weeks. Jake, if I asked you this question 2 weeks ago, you would have jumped off the show immediately. I mean,
I would have quit.
You would have quit. You would have quit the podcast. But it's a legit.
I would have stopped being your friend, honestly.
You would
have been booted from the circle.
I know. You can't boot me from the Twitter circle, man. That is sacred to me. I cannot be booted from the Twitter circle. But the other reason why I brought this up is if he is a top 3 quarterback in the NFC, that would mean next year he is at least a Pro Bowler and has a very good chance to be an All-Pro in 2023. If you believe he's a top 3 quarterback in the conference next year. So
Sure.
we are possibly looking at an all-pro quarterback for the Chicago Bears.
I
And
also
you
would like to
never thought
say
you'd say that.
there is a non-zero chance that Lamar Jackson leaves the Ravens and ends up in the AFC. It's a non-zero chance. I'm not saying it's likely.
Yeah.
Non-zero.
The Ravens are going to
I'll
let
say it again.
Lamar walk and sign Roquan to $40 billion.
I'll say it
What a
again.
great franchise.
Back to my original point. The question basically becomes, do you believe Justin Fields will be better than Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, and 2 rookies? I think it'll be better than the 2 rookies next year, at least, for sure. Just because look at what the rookies of the last couple classes have
I guess
done.
you could include Trey Lance if you really, really
I won't.
wanted.
I will not include
won't
Trey
either,
Lance.
but
Yeah,
some people
just
are
because
gonna
you
be
have
like,
seen 0.0% of what he can do. I think he can be better than Dak. So then the question basically becomes, do you think Jalen Hurts is going to regress? And do you think Kyler Murray is not going to revert back to the mean? Because I don't think Kyler Murray's as good as he was in the prime of last season. And I don't think he's as bad as he's been this year. I think the answer is I think Kyler Murray's a really good quarterback. I don't think he's somewhere in the middle of those two things. I agree with you. I think Justin Fields can be top 3, top 2 in the conference. I believe that there could be a stretch at some point where he maybe is top of the conference. I don't think it'll be wire to wire. Okay, Justin Fields is the guy. Yes, absolutely. He's the best quarterback in this conference for sure. Don't think it's going to happen. It just now could be wrong. He might just be awesome.
That's fine. Jake, the fact that you're
is
saying that he could be top 3 is warming my heart. I never thought we'd get here. I never thought we'd get here. What is this? Is this Jake? What are you dressing up for Halloween?
This is 2 weeks. This is 2 weeks of progress. This is 2 weeks of finally seeing good football.
Jake,
this is 2 weeks of seeing the guy actually perform the way we expected.
Are you the guy behind the Bears blog? Because that's exactly
yeah. I have time for that. Yeah, for sure. I have the time and energy to do that 1,000%. No. So I mean, this is going to segue good into for the game recap for the last bit of this show. Justin Fields for the second week in a row was awesome. Now you didn't win because of him this week, and that sucks. Yeah, but for the second week in a row, Justin Fields was phenomenal. Not just running, which is what we had seen far too many times. Oh, he ran great, but didn't really pass great. He passed fantastic. That ball to N'Keal Harry for the touchdown was exactly what we've been dreaming about since he was drafted. A ball where only the receiver can get it, a ball that is going to, you just put it where he can get it, and you hope that he can carry it into the end zone or make a big play. And he did. And credit to N'Keal Harry. He looks like he's just going to keep carving out a role here. It looks like he's kind of building a rapport with Justin Fields, which is great because this is his second week active, basically. And, he had the one catch against the Patriots, and it was a chunk play. And it was like, okay, great. I think they're easing him in, which is fine. He was hurt. He's coming off a pretty bad injury. Fine. That's fine with me. Second week back, catches a big touchdown that makes the game close and kind of puts you in the game. And then obviously we know what happened after that. That's great. Would love to see that because that's a guy then, if Ryan Poles can bring in a guy for a 7th-round pick and you hit on him and now you can rely on him, he doesn't even have to be a number 1. If he could be a number 2 next year or just a red zone threat like he was against Dallas, awesome. Yep. That is perfect. That's what you'll take for a 7th-rounder all day, every day. But back to my original point, Justin Fields for the second week in a row did things that you were like, hell yeah, where you were like, this is what we've been waiting for. And not only did he do it, he did it 2 weeks in a row. And I think that's the big point for me. How long have I been saying, Kevin, that we need to see the consistency and the weeks of good games strung together? We need them all together. We need the consistent steps forward and not the 1 step forward, 2 steps back, or 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. Because we saw that after the Vikings game. You had the Vikings game in that second half, then you had the Commanders game. Bounce back after the mini bye, however you want to call it, and you have the Patriots game, and then you have the Cowboys game. And remember, I was worried last week. I thought Micah Parsons could be a game record. I thought Diggs could wreck that game for you, and he almost did. That interception that he almost had with one hand would have been sick, and that would have just been props. That would have, and it was anyway. It was just props. He was an athletic play. He read it perfectly. That's just one of the top defensive backs in the NFL doing what he does. That kudos to him. If it's against any other corner in the NFL, that's probably an awesome throw that you get for a first down. Like it just is what it is. But even those misses where you're like, oh, if it's anybody else, defending that pass, you probably make it happen. Like Justin Fields has done it now for 2 weeks in a row. The Dolphins, they're a good defense, but you just saw what you could do against a good defense. You could still make things happen here. So I'm not going to say
you're all in. Come on.
I'm not Kevin Lapka levels in on Justin Fields, but I'm confident that he can be the guy. Now, remember, Kevin, remember a month or two ago that I said I wasn't sure Justin Fields was a lock to be on the roster next year? Yeah. I mean, he's in. I'll say that now.
Okay, good.
Like, I'll throw that opinion out the window. Like, he's playing well enough now where you're like, okay, we'll keep around. We'll stick with it now because this is the guy you signed up for. This is the guy you were hoping for. And he's starting to be that guy. Now just keep it going. Luke Getsy, credit to him too. If he learned his lesson, which is what it looks like, great. That makes it even better. Now, can we please, God, get the offensive line healthy so we can stop doing the 7th or 8th or 9th or 10th different combination of offensive linemen? Jesus Christ.
And this is, again, the reason why these performances are that much more impressive. Like, guys, he's looked like the best QB in his class, and his supporting class is significantly worse than every one of those QBs in the class, aside from maybe Davis Mills in the Houston Texans. Right? Because it was...
Yeah, I mean, sure, but they've still got Laramie Tunsil and Brandon Cooks, who was on the trade block. But I mean, there's no one in the Bears roster who was like that.
I mean,
is there a way we can merge the Houston Texans offensive line, then bring them to Chicago for like, I don't know, like we'll take Miles Smith as the linebackers coach if we can get the Texans offensive line.
Yeah, honestly, we'll take it. That is totally fine with me. I mean, it's just like I was extremely impressed, and I think it's the best game of his career. I think it was the best game of his career. Again, we had to remember the narratives before the game of, oh, this is the best defensive front in football, and they lead the league in sacks, and the way that
they have the defensive player of the year.
They do. I mean, he's the defensive player of the year, even though he was kind of not on the field that much on Sunday. I think he was dealing with an injury. Yeah, but obviously he made plays when he was on the field. He was a game wrecker. I've never been more impressed, and I've never been more excited, out of Justin Fields. And admittedly, at times, like, you do get skeptical. For as much as I had been in on him, like, you do get worried that about certain aspects of the game, about his game. But on Sunday, like, you add the Velus Jones Jr. If he catches that football, okay, that's another 50 yards on the stat sheet. That's also a play that goes viral on the internet because he dropped it in the absolute bucket. Really the only place he could catch it. And
in the bucket, man.
They're saying on the broadcast. They're saying on the broadcast, on radio and TV, they're saying you don't make a better throw than that. Like, you just have to catch it.
You don't. And just, again, I think one of the main things for me about that game, and we've seen it multiple times this year now, is the Bears have gone down significantly, and they have clawed their way back into those games, not because they're getting defensive scores, not because, the defense is bringing you back. I mean, yeah, they had to make some stops, but because the offense is bringing you back into that game, and Justin Fields is bringing you back into that game. Down, they were down, what was it, 24-3? I forget how much they were down there. Maybe it was 28. Like, I don't know what it was. It was something crazy.
I think it was 28-0.
Was it 28-0? I don't think it ever got to 28.
28-7.
28-7, right? And again, we've seen Chicago Bears teams in the past couple of years roll over and die. And I'll be honest, I'm sitting on my couch at that game, during that game, 28-7. And I'm thinking to myself, we still have a shot. Like I had faith that Justin Fields was going to bring you back into that game, and you could force Dak to make a mistake, and he did. We talked about that in the pregame show. Force Dak to throw the ball a little bit more down the field, and good things are going to happen for your defense, and did for Eddie Jackson. But just the ability to stay resilient, and this was something we've talked about before the draft, last year, this year. One of the more redeeming qualities of Justin Fields as a quarterback, and one of the most important things for a guy who we believe it can at one point lead this team to a Super Bowl, is to be able to not stay down when your team is down significantly, to come back and to be a dog and to bring your team back into the games and really put the team on your back. Like Greg Jennings, if y'all remember the clip, broken leg in Madden, running down the field, put the team on his back. Darren Chopper, one of the most hardest hitting safeties in the league. Fuck it, I put the team on my back. That was Justin Fields on Sunday. And although it didn't equate to a win, watching your quarterback put the team on his back is a special thing. And it doesn't happen for a lot of guys in back-to-back games, and it did for the Chicago Bears. So I'm just, took a piece of tape on my jersey for Halloween, and I said, I'm being him for Halloween. All right? I'm being
Stop.
him, not Justin Fields. It's him. Okay.
Oh my
This is where we're
God.
at. All right. He's him. It's Justin Timothy Fields, and that's all I gotta say.
Just him Fields.
Just him Fields. Oh, that's perfect. Just him Fields. Just him Fields. Let's go.
Yeah, man. This is you know what else is good to see too is like Luke Getsy. Like a couple weeks ago, man, I was pretty close to being like get Luke Getsy the hell out of Chicago. Like fire this MF. Like get him out. And I still think there's some things that they could be doing to make it easier. But finally, I feel like because I kind of wanted to please myself today, so I just watched a bunch of Justin Fields videos and like people, talking good about him, and I watched the whole Dilfer video and all that. So I'm watching and I see all the comments and all the Twitter replies, and Dov Kleiman actually he tweeted that he would rate Justin number 1 out of his class right now out of the quarterbacks because Trevor Lawrence has had the struggles he's had. And everyone's like, damn, the Bears finally figured it out after a year and a half that they have a 6'3", damn near 4'3", 40 guy that can throw accurately on the run and can add to your run game. Like, oh my God, they finally figured it out. And thank God we did, because like now you see the difference. Like I said, Kevin, like not all guys warm up like with quick game. Not all guys like get in the mood, get in the zone by throwing quick slants and hitches. Like some guys just need to get their legs under them first. Some guys need to feel like they're a part of the run game. And I feel like you've seen comfortability with that. Like you've seen him be poised. You've seen him be a little bit more patient, a lot, not leaving the pocket as much. I feel like you've seen that the comfortability aspect raised a ton since Getsy has kind of changed this offense to fit more around that. And like I said, I still think they could be doing more. And I know that they're trying to protect him with the run game, and Mike talked about this, and we keep talking about it, how, this is just a team that is just not built to win right now. So if you're going to throw the ball 40 times a game, your QB is probably going to get hit on 8, 9, 10 of those, if not more, and that's a lot of hits for him to be taken. So you're just not going to throw that. But, you look at Justin Fields' game log, the first few games, I've had it pulled up earlier and I let it go. I don't know why, but his first 4 games, he had,
I saw this.
Under 20. Yeah. They were all under 20 attempts. Like his completion percentage was under 50, and I think almost all 4. And now in the last 4 games, he's had, over 160 yards in every start. He's had, the completion percentage has been in the 70s 2, if not 3 times, if I'm not mistaken. He's limited the turnovers. He's running the ball more. I mean, that's what we want to see, right? And we've only played 8 games now this season. Like there's still 9 more games to get better, which I think is where the good stuff will happen. And, who knows, maybe 1, 2, 3 of those games, Justin doesn't have a good game, but
it'll happen.
I'll take 6
happen.
out of 9, man. As long as it's more than half, as long as we get 5 plus good games out of Justin Fields, games where we see it and we're like, that's our guy. Because like you're right, Kevin, it will happen. Like that's just football. It happens to the best in the business. Look at Brady right now, but it'll happen. But I'm very pleased.
Rodgers.
Yeah, exactly. I'm very pleased with the progress that the entire football team is making. And there are some times when guys just have to make plays. Like Bayless dropped that, and I know that I don't know who the corner was that made the play on Dante Pettis in the end zone, but like sometimes you just got to put the ball up and your guy has to go make a fucking play, man. And
Cole Kmet.
Cole
Kmet did that. I mean, and granted, the throw was unbelievable too.
Yeah, but like
he was open.
Yeah, he was open. Like how many times? Think about it.
Ran a great route.
Did Devontae Adams bail out Aaron Rodgers, or how many times did DeAndre Hopkins bail out Kyler Murray?
Freaking Tua Tagovailoa. There was the second big throw he had to Tyreek Hill. The announcer literally goes, underthrown by Tua again, but Hill makes the catch. That first big throw of the game to EQ St. Brown, like EQ just literally overran it and did not make an attempt to come back to the ball. At the very least, you make an attempt to come back to the ball and you get a 50-yard pass interference. He didn't even make an attempt. He just didn't track the ball. Like every throw is not going to be perfect. Justin does need to be better on that throw. 100% that throw needs to be 1 to 2 yards more out there. But damn, can I get an effort? Can I get something? Can you do something, man? Like
I want that clipped for the rest of the season. But damn, like that, we need that. That's the story. The story of the 2022 Chicago Bears. You shut your ass up. The 2022 story of the Chicago Bears wide receiving core is, but damn, like that's it's just like God, these guys just stink. Like Dante Pettis, whatever. That guy just stinks. Like he's just not good.
Yeah,
like whatever.
Can't put it
But
together.
like Velus Jones Jr. just might not be very good. Like that just might be how it is. Equinomia St. Brown, we know that guy is just not that good. Like that's why he's bounced around, and that's why even Aaron Rodgers couldn't make that guy very good, while his brother balls out with Jared fucking Goff. Like that's just how it is, So. But the thing is, like, you're right. Justin Fields, we see the development. We see him getting better. And one thing for me that I loved from the Cowboys game was not once, but twice and maybe 3 times, you heard free play for the Bears. And they just chucked it down there and said, screw it, let's see what happens. That was beautiful because for the last, 10 years probably, you don't hear that. You had, especially during not the Ryan Pace, Matt Nagy era, especially not during the Mark Trestman era, especially not during the John Fox era, you never heard free play for the Bears. Never. It never happened. And now you have the quarterback that can make teams pay for it, and you're playing disciplined football. Like this team just doesn't commit stupid penalties. They just don't, which is fantastic after last year when they were making them 20 times a game and they're the most penalized team in the league for dumb shit. But this year, this team plays disciplined and they get other teams to make stupid penalties that then you can capitalize on. Eventually, one of those is going to turn into free play for the Bears and they got it, touchdown or whatever.
That happened against Washington.
Yeah,
that was a free play.
You're just going to hear it. And
which one was
eventually those are going to start happening.
The touchdown of Dante Pettis on Thursday Night Football.
Oh, it was a free play. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Pettis on that one ball, he's running. I don't know exactly what kind of route it was, but he was facing the wrong. He was running the wrong.
That was the best play.
It was
the wrong way.
It was a leak.
No. I'm talking about this past week.
Oh,
if you remember do you remember the Pettis play in the end zone? Yeah, he was looking the wrong way. Like Justin actually put that ball in an okay spot. But look, I just God, get this guy some damn help, man. I mean, it's just and here's what I will say. I thought Darnell Mooney had a good game. I mean, if you guys remember the replays, he was making Trayvon Diggs look like burnt toast out there. I mean, he was, Trayvon was playing a lot of off coverage and it wasn't really pressing him at the line, wasn't really intimidating him at the line. But, there were a lot of times where, Darnell Mooney's running with his chest down the field and Trayvon Diggs is turned around. So I thought, Mooney had a real good game and they did a good job of exposing that. Now I want to talk a little bit defense real quick because it doesn't really matter anymore. Like this defense is cooked anyway. But one thing that I thought was really curious and stupid by the Bears defensively was in the first couple drives of the game, like how many times did you see them just take the easy hitch routes, the easy slant routes on guys who were 8 yards off the receiver? You're giving him 8 yards of cushion. And I think Dak Prescott standing there, hot routing Michael Gallup and CeeDee Lamb all day saying, dude, if Kendall Vildor is going to play you 8 yards, off, guess what? We're going to hot route a slant and get 8 yards here. And they did that so many times, and the Bears did not adjust. I mean, how many? Do you guys remember how many times that happened? First downs were allowed, and on 3rd and 6, let's just go. Kendall Vildor is not pressing anyone at the line of scrimmage. Kyle Gore is not pressing anyone at the line of scrimmage. Let's just out route him, get him, right into a slant or a curl, easy first down. No contest at the point. Like Kellen, I don't know if you know, or Jake, if you guys saw that as much as I did. I know you probably didn't go back and watch all the defensive snaps, Kellen.
I sure didn't. I was only focused on one man and one man only.
But so I'll go to Jake. I mean, did you notice that? I just didn't know what the plan was there. I mean, it was really concerning.
I just don't think there was a plan. I think the way you started the way you started getting gashed immediately by Tony Pollard, like I think it was panic mode right away, and there's just an inability to adjust, which is fine for me because that's the first game that's happened. That's the first game that Alan Williams' defense has just truly fallen apart.
Well,
it
fell apart against Minnesota in the first half when Justin Jefferson had 11.
But then they bounced back. My point being it fell apart completely and it was unsalvageable. Like every other game so far, this defense has been able to pull themselves together or salvage some part, even if it's just for a half. So I think it's just that, you got. You got for one game. Now show us next week how you adjust. It kind of like how I said after the Commanders game, offense has to show the fans how they adjust and what changes you make. Defense has to do the same thing now. Like, you have to do the exact same thing because you're about to come up against an offense with two of the best wide receivers in all of football.
They might combine for 400 receiving yards. Like I'm
really
terrified.
good. They're really good.
I'm terrified. Like, I think the Bears can actually win that game, and we'll do our preview on Wednesday. But boy, oh boy, am I terrified of Tyreek Hill. I mean, that guy, he's on my fantasy team, so
they might just murder you. And they probably will, because this defense is going nowhere fast because you just got rid of your two best players. And granted, I still really like Jaquan Brisker. I think Eddie Jackson's doing a great job and having a great season. I still like Kyler Gordon. But everything outside of that, and Jalen Johnson, still like him, obviously still think he's an all-pro type player. Outside of those four, those guys are bad. Like, this defensive line, bad. The linebackers, bad. Like, it's going to be tough. Like, if you thought Sunday was bad, imagine what the Eagles, Bills, Dolphins, Vikings are going to do to you.
Yeah.
It's not going to get better.
Right.
It's not going to get better, people.
So here's real quick. I'll go to Kellen here because go back to the draft real quick before we head out, because obviously the attention is now turned to solely 2023, given the fact that I think the Bears are going to win a couple more games this year. I think they'll actually go on a nice streak after this game.
We're going to get a receiver tomorrow too. There's just no way we don't.
Well, let's do that first, I guess, because we're going to put this out in about an hour. So people will have some time to listen to this. And if you're listening to this after the fact, we apologize. I know in hindsight it's going to make us look stupid, but what, you really think so? Because I don't think Jerry Jeudy's going anywhere anymore. You texted me that yesterday. There's just no way.
I don't think so, but Elijah Moore said in his press conference,
dude, that guy might just not show up to work tomorrow.
He said, like, me and Zach just doesn't throw me the ball. I don't know. Like, that guy, he can't stick in your wide receiver room.
I will say, is that a guy you really want to trade for?
Yes, because Jake, Zach Wilson is that bad.
No, I agree. I agree. But what happens? What happens when the Bears get better receivers next year, and then he gets kicked down the depth chart again?
I think
do you want to have that situation?
Fair point.
I think, but that affords you the fact that you can put that money other places, and if that happens, then like shit, like he just like better guys play over him. Like that's just how it is. But like I think Elijah Moore could be I think him and Darnell Mooney could be a 1A and a 1B. Like I don't think either of them are like solidified wide receiver ones, like no doubt in this league. But I think together, you put them together, you put the two of them together. Like it's like, I mean, Allen Robinson was a 1, but like in 2021, he wasn't the 1, and you saw how much Darnell Mooney benefited from that. You saw how much he benefited from it in 2020. So
that's a good point.
Just because you don't have a wide receiver 1 does not mean that having two guys who are top tier wide receiver 2s in your offense doesn't make it better. So now you don't have to worry about spending money in a free agent. You just get a first round receiver. Now, boom, you've got, well, they're going to re-sign Mooney probably, but then you've got 2 receivers on a rookie contract who are big playmakers for you. You've got N'Keal Harry, who's your big body receiver, who you may re-sign as a prove-it guy. You've got Cole Kmet for 1 more year, right? So let's say they get Jackson Smith and Jigba. Those 5 are probably your 5 receivers. And then you spend money on a tackle. You draft, or you spend
an edge. Spend money on an edge. Bradley Chubb's a free agent.
I don't care where you spend the money as long as we get better, right? But right. I mean, I think a trade for Elijah Moore, I don't think he's as high. We couldn't talk about him like we talked about Jerry Jeudy, but I still think that he's a damn good player. His tape was damn good coming out of college. And I just don't know what it is with the Jets, but Denzel Mims was talented. He's not the greatest player. He's one of those guys that just his translation in the NFL didn't work. But the Jets have not developed wide receivers. And Garrett Wilson is doing really well right now. Corey Davis.
I will say, just on Elijah Moore in a vacuum, I feel like Ryan Poles is a risk-averse GM.
It's a very true point.
And I feel like he's not going to want to go and use a draft pick.
Well, look at N'Keal Harry, though, right? I mean, that kind of
N'Keal Harry was a guy that just like, I don't know. It just seems like for a 7th rounder, fine. Too. But a 7th rounder for N'Keal Harry. Elijah Moore is going to be way more than that.
No, but so here's what I think the situation is for the Jets now, right? The Jets are a 4-3 football team who believe that they can believe that they can make the playoffs. They believe that and compete, right? And if there's truth to the fact that this controversy and this tension between Elijah Moore and Zach Wilson is fracturing the locker room, they might dish him out for far lower than what his actual value is just to get him out of there, just to remove him from the situation. We've seen situations like this happen before, where teams, in an eagerness to get rid of somebody because of their impact on the team in a negative way for whatever reason. It's not, again, it doesn't mean Elijah Moore's a bad teammate or a bad person. It's just that relationship appears to be
bad
fractured.
guy confirmed.
No, but I think you could catch him in a situation where, hey, let's just get him out of here. Let's reset. We'll sell him away for a 5th round pick. And even if they sell him for a 4th round pick, that's fine because we got 2 of them. I'd be totally fine trading a 4th for Elijah Moore and still having 1 more remaining for this year, plus the likely possibility of getting 1 more 4th round pick as a conditional pick from everything that you've now lost and the algorithm that goes into conditional draft picks.
The only thing with conditional picks is you might spend enough money where they cancel out, so you might end up with no conditional picks.
Yeah, it's possible.
So here's my thing.
Is that really a rule? I did not know that was a thing.
Well, yeah, because if you're getting conditional picks for losing free agents, you have to give up picks then to sign free agents. So
the algorithm's weird. It takes into factor a lot of things, but you're right.
Well, so here's the thing. I think Ryan Poles would rather wait and do his evaluations for receivers in the draft and then maybe use one of those 4th rounders to trade up rather than use it on Elijah Moore, a guy who he can't, spend all winter evaluating. It's just he's risk averse from what we've seen so far. I mean, look at the Ogunjobi signing.
Yes.
Look how he bailed out of that. Like, look how, if he really wanted a wide receiver, Odell Beckham Jr. is still out there. If he wanted it that badly, and all that he would
get
cost.
Kevin started.
Trust me, I know how risky this is. That's why I'm bringing it up at the end of the show. But, that only costs money as opposed to. So I think Ryan Poles would rather hang on to those picks. He's been very careful and very intentional about how he's accumulated these picks through these trades. I don't think he's just looking to throw them away in the next week or so.
Eric Fenton in the chat agrees with you.
I just don't know if it's I think Elijah Moore can, especially on this roster. He can be. We have
he can be. I don't disagree with that, but I think knowing what we know about Poles so far, I could be wrong. I could be an idiot, but I think he'd rather spend. I think he'd rather spend all winter evaluating these guys.
Correct, and he's done it right. Like he has proven to have the ability to make this team better when he recognizes there's issues. Can you guys imagine what the offensive line configuration would have been last week had he not signed Riley Reiff and Michael Schofield in August? Could you even effing imagine who the hell would have played right tackle and who the hell would have played left guard?
And seriously. There was a whole bunch of talks of trading Tevin Jenkins, and he didn't do that. And now Tevin Jenkins is one of the 2 best linemen we have on the offensive line.
He's your best line. He's your best line.
He is a potential Pro Bowl right guard. Like I would go that far. All right, before the trade deadline, let's do one last thing before we head out of here. Final prediction for trade deadline. Do they make a move? If so, who? Yes or no? Let's start with you, Jake. Do they make a move? Yes, and if yes, who? If not, then we'll move on.
Think they're done. I think this is it. Yeah.
Selling or buying?
Yeah, I think the 2 most obvious things have happened. I think they're good standing pat, unless something like crazy out of left field happens.
Okay. Kellen?
I think they trade for a receiver. And if I have to be more specific, I say they trade a 4th for Elijah Moore.
4th for Elijah Moore. No one to sell?
No.
Yeah. I was pondering Dave Montgomery.
We just spent all episode talking about how piss poor this roster is. I don't think that they're trading anybody else.
Oh, sure there is. I mean, Dave Montgomery.
Also, just so everybody knows, the trade deadline is tomorrow. In case any of our viewers don't know.
Yeah. Trade deadline tomorrow. And again, sorry if you're listening to this after the fact that we just had this whole 10-minute conversation. I'm going to say that they don't sell anyone else. I don't think the return you would get for David Montgomery is worth it in this era of running backs. And obviously Eddie Jackson is a player who can, return to that Pro Bowl form, obviously this year, but if not this year, then next year. I do think they do get a wide receiver as well. I think Ryan Poles has proven the ability to obviously be risk avert, but also, he has said
name names.
Again, Michael Schofield, Riley Reiff, N'Keal Harry.
No, name who he's going to trade for you, bozo.
I'm also going Elijah Moore. There's names out there like Jerry Jeudy and Chase Claypool that are going to be floated around, but of all of the names, the one that is most likely to be traded has to be Elijah Moore. It has to be. I mean, again, just the situation that's playing out there, and I think the value is dropping significantly for him. I think it makes the most sense for the Bears situation and for the Jets. I think they do trade for Elijah Moore tomorrow, and that'll be something. We might have to hop on back here tomorrow if they do that, but that's what I'm going with, Jake.
All right.
That'll make therapy a lot easier.
Yeah, Tuesday night therapy. Yeah, maybe a good one.
Yeah, well, all right. As usual, I'm the only one dying on the hill of doing nothing and negativity, but that is nothing new because I'm used to it on this show. So, yeah, whatever. Boo's in the chat. Yeah, boo this man, boo. Oh, brother, this guy stinks. But whatever. I'm right, and I will continue to be right, and that's fine. That's because that's all that matters at the end of the year and at the end of the day.
I will say,
Zip
good
it. I
job
don't
of
want to
getting
hear the
back to
record.
even.
Okay,
No, you
mute
got.
him. All right, this has
You're
been
5-3
Bears
on the
Nation
picking record.
Podcast.
We're even. We're
Shut up.
good. It's fine.
This has been Bears Nation Podcast. Kellen, thank you for joining the Monday edition. We appreciate your expertise as always. Tune in to Tuesday Therapy with Kellen and Kevin tomorrow so they can pine and whine about how Elijah Moore is not a Bear. But until then, your regularly scheduled programming of the preview episode will be back on Wednesday to break down the Dolphins and the Bears and the absolute terror that Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill will have. But until then, we appreciate you all who tune in live, who comment, who watch live, and of course, our podcast listeners. We love you too. So until Wednesday, we will see you then. And as always, bear down.